out a recording of this specific webinar, so that'll be sent out to everyone afterwards, and then it's also available in the recording section, which I'm going to show in just a second. So a few things that I did mention I wanted to show before we get into the actual meat of the webinar. One is, well, really all three. It's up at the top right of your system under the question mark. There's a few areas I want to point out. One is the training module. So if you haven't explored this already, I do recommend it. I recommend going into the FP library. The FP library is, we refer to it as the mothership of how-tos. And you know, this is a great area for documentation, videos, cheat sheets, workflow diagrams, and things like that. They're all organized by different functions or modules of the system. And there's good search functionality here. So someone was asking me just earlier today, one of my colleagues was asking me about tax groups. So if I just wanted to look at, you know, setting up tax groups, and I can search for that, and you know, setting up taxes, and then I can go into that area, and then it'll show me on screen and take me step by step. But I can also download the lesson plan PDF, and this just presents the same information to me, but I kind of like it in the PDF. I find it a bit easier to follow. It's going to take me through step-by-step instructions with screenshots on exactly how to set up taxes. We update these documents with new visuals as the system changes, so it's always up to date. So I do recommend checking out the help site. Another area I want to mention is the What's New section. What's New allows you to see the latest releases and any kind of bug fixes or anything like that as well. You'll see that here. And then also new documentation, videos, webinars, including recordings of previous webinars as well. So this is where you'll find all of that stuff around webinars and new documentation and things like that. So without further ado, let's jump in, but I should probably check. So if anything that I missed or anything that you want me to talk about that I haven't mentioned so far?
Nope. All I had written down was to remind you to record the session, and it looks like you're way ahead of me.
All right, we're good to go then. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is just talk a little bit about some dashboards. And really the concept around this is, you log into the system and you have some dashboards that you can look at really quickly to understand what is assigned to you, what is assigned to others by you or by other team members, what's the status of those assignments, when are they due, what's the budget versus actual look like, how many jobs do we have open, how many tasks are currently late. You want to get a general understanding of what's the agency's workload looking like right now. And you want to be able to do that without having to, as much as I enjoy doing finds, and I actually do, there's no sarcasm there, I really am a huge fan of this custom searching and then reporting on those results. We're actually going to look at that today. But as much as I like that, you do want to be able to look into some information on the dashboard and quickly understand what's going on. So one thing I did before this webinar is actually deleted my dashboards, because instead of just looking at them, we're actually going to create some today. And I'm going to show you at least one example that I like, maybe two. But right now we are looking at the default dashboard, and this is of course showing us our timesheet panel, our jobs panel, pin notes or communications, and our tasks and to-dos. Now the amount of information you see here depends on how much screen real estate you've given to each panel. The jobs panel, for example, is very little screen area, so the information you're seeing here is pretty limited. The number, the company code, project code if it exists, and the name of the job. In the tasks and to-do section, we're seeing the tasks that are assigned, the description of the task, the job and company and project that it's related to, when it's due, who assigned it to us, budgeted actual hours, and the status of the task. Now, if I want more information, or maybe even less, and I also want some different views and different things I can do, then in that case, we're going to choose to customize the dashboards. I'm going to show you one that I like, and I'm going to call it Traffic. Kind of like a traffic manager dashboard. So it's pretty straightforward. On the left, you'll see highlighted in green, are we creating a new one or are we overriding an existing? In this case, we're creating a new. I'm calling it Traffic, and then choosing a layout. So the layout that I want has a lot of screen real estate up at the top. So here's one I like. So I'm going to choose this here. Now up at the top, I have this full panel, left to right, entire entire area of the left to right. So there's not a lot of options here, but one of them is tasks and to-dos. And when you give that much area to the tasks and to-dos, you get a lot more flexibility, and we'll see that in a second. Down below, I have a panel that goes left to right 2 spaces and 1 space up, and I'm going to choose jobs, not jobs by company, just jobs. And then in the small box here, I'm going to choose task and time summary. And when we save and close, and I might come back and create another one in a second, but I want to show this one first. You'll notice that we now have the option to go to that custom dashboard. And I want to show what happens with this tasks and to-dos panel and why I think it's so important and why I highly recommend that you go ahead and create this dashboard either right now or after the webinar. So you'll notice that the tasks and to-dos section, the panel now has a lot more information because we've given it more screen real estate. It also has more functionality. So right now, I'm seeing the title of the task, the job it's for, the company, assigned to and from, due date, budgeted actual and variance on hours, the variance percentage, priority if it's been established, and then the percentage complete, which is user defined, and the status of the task. Now I'm seeing this for everybody because when you give the tasks and to-dos panel this much space, you can do neat things like choose specific staff people you want to see tasks for. It looks like I'm actually seeing a custom selection. So if I want to see, okay, well I only want to look at the tasks perhaps that are assigned to me, so I'll just select myself. Or if I wanted to choose another individual, I just hold Command or Control, and I can choose other people as well. But let's say both of the project managers, tasks assigned by both of the project managers. Select that, and here are all the tasks assigned to the project managers. I might want to see, instead of tasks assigned to the project managers, I want to see tasks assigned by the selected staff, which would be by the project managers. I might then want to sort this by different headers. So I have it sorted by due date right now. See the arrow? I'm going to clear that sort. I'm then going to sort it by who it's assigned to, and then due date, and then maybe variance on hours, workload. So now I'm looking at all the tasks assigned by the project managers, sorted by who they're assigned to, and then sorted by due date. Lon has 2 tasks assigned by me, 1 is overdue and 1 is due tomorrow. So by giving yourself more screen real estate for the tasks and to-dos panel, you're giving yourself a lot more flexibility and a way of quickly understanding what's going on. There's also this search field here, which is really useful. You come in the morning and I quickly need to know. I need to know exactly what is assigned for my client, Great Atlantic Insurance. It's a big client of mine. I have a lot of stuff on the go for them. I see an email in my inbox from my main contact there. I don't even want to open up that email until I know what's on the go for them. So I'm going to choose all of my staff. I'm just holding the Shift key and clicking. It's standard browser multi-select functionality. Choose that. I'm now seeing all the tasks assigned to everybody. So there's 97 of them. Up at the top, I'm going to clear the sort. I'm going to sort it by due date. I'm then going to type in Great Atlantic and leave the field. I'm now looking at all the tasks assigned to everybody, specifically for Great Atlantic Insurance. I have it sorted by due date. I'm then going to sort it maybe by job. And now I can look and see, okay, we have a task that's overdue for the corporate website upgrade. It's assigned to Alon. There's 3 hours left in the budget. And of course, if I click on the task, it'll bring me into that task's details page. You'll see that I'm doing a lot of this kind of task management right from my dashboard without having to move away because I've created this custom dashboard that gives the task panel more screen real estate. And furthermore, with the jobs panel, I'm able to see more information as well, including the due date. So I just have a list of all of my open jobs and when are they due. There's also a task time summary, which I like. It shows me that I have 100 open tasks and then 35 due within the next 7 days. 7 of them are overdue. And that probably, if we look up at the top here, that'll correspond with what we see here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tasks overdue. those are the 7 tasks there, but this is interactive. If I want to see, okay, well, what are the 35 that are due within the next 7 days? I can select this, and it will bring me to a list of those 35 tasks that are due in the next 7 days. Now, we're kind of getting a little bit over time on the whole dashboard thing, so I'm probably not going to create another one, but I do encourage you to play around with this, and please do keep in mind that most of the tiles have settings and filters, and that allows you to change the way that you're seeing the information. So a lot of the time when you first select a tile, it's going to pop in as blank because the filters aren't set up, so you just keep in mind that if you see a little gear, a little flower, as some people see it, come in there and adjust your filters. So if you just want to check in any questions, any of this dashboard stuff, or anything we've been covering so far?
You know what? All of the questions that have been coming in, I've been able to answer, but thanks for checking in.
Sounds good. Yeah, so again, I really encourage people to create a dashboard that has the tasks and to-dos panel with more screen real estate, and then play around with the other dashboards as well, because there are so many different styles and options and things that you can include depending on the size that you give the panels. The next thing that we're going to look at is assigning work. So we're going to look at assigning work at the job level, assigning work at the task level. And I do like to take time to show assigning work at the job level because I find it to be very useful myself, and I don't think a lot of people use it that much. So for example, I just opened up a job before the webinar. It's called Holiday Season Entrance Signs. It's for a client of mine, Safeway. So for Safeway, we're doing some holiday season front entrance signs and banners. And I can see that this job, it's just open, so there's no actuals, there's no work done on this, there's no schedule, there's no tasks or anything like that. There are 2 contacts on this job. And if I click here, or if I click here, it'll show me those contacts. I have myself, because I open it up, and then I have my contact Orlando, who is my main contact at Safeway. And I selected him when I opened up the job, so it automatically put him as a contact. A quick and easy way to assign work in the system is to assign contacts to the job that you opened. So usually when you go to a job, you're going to land on the summary tab. And what I would do is I'd go to contacts, and often this is the very first thing you do when you open up a job, or something I recommend. Select to manage job contacts, and then choose of your staff people, who do we need working on this? I know I need Jeremy working on this. I want our designer, Darren. I also want one of our studio staff, let's say Travis. Select the people I know I need working on this. I might also have third-party developers, contractors, copywriters, some sort of, or maybe the printer. I know I'm working with a printer on this job. And I think I'm working with a company called Starboard Custom Printing on this, so I'm just going to type in Star. In fact, let's just type in Starboard under the company field. Click search, and that's showing me all the contacts I have for my vendor, Starboard Custom Printing. And I know that we're going to be working with, let's say, Lisa on this, so I'm going to select Lisa, and that adds her as a third-party participant to this job. So from this one page, I'm adding client contacts, vendor contacts, staff contacts, all in one go. Submit that, and those individuals are now part of the now 6 contacts on this job. And we can see all those 6 contacts. Maybe I'll sort them by company. So here's our internal staff, our client, and our third party. Now what this does is it means that when I go back to my classic dashboard, I will see this job in what I like to call my list. Instead of looking at every job that's on the go, I only want to look at jobs that I'm involved in. So I'm going to choose my jobs, and I'm only seeing jobs that I am specifically involved in. So here's my holiday season entrance signs right there. Now, if I'm not a contact on a job, but I am working on it, I'm going to be working on this Mac & Co. SEO retainer for this month. I might just choose it just to have it for this month. And then when I'm no longer working on it, I would just take it off my list. It also allows you to search. So if I wanted to see, okay, well, what are all of the jobs that are open that have my name as a contact that are due between today and, let's say, the next 6 weeks. So any job that's due between today and 6 weeks from now that is open, where I'm a contact, click Find, and that produces the results of our search. So I have 8 jobs that I'm involved in that are due in the next, between today and the next 6 weeks that are currently open right now. So that allows you to, search and understand, what are all the jobs that somebody's working on if you don't need to task them specifically, because sometimes you don't really want to create a schedule or you don't really need to. You just want to assign people to the job. And it's something I definitely recommend to agencies that are just starting out with the system, where you haven't really got into that scheduling aspect yet, and you just want to assign people to what they're working on. That managed job contacts is a really great way to do that. The next thing we're going to look at is task assignment, and we're going to look at 3 ways of assigning tasks in the system. Before we do that, Sophie, I just want to check in anything that you think we should answer on screen.
Nope, you know what? I think you're explaining everything perfectly, and everyone's been pretty awesome today.
Okay, great. Well, if anyone does have any questions, please feel free to chime in. We're going to be looking at some task assignment, and then we're going to jump into scheduling. So we'll stick with this job, I think. We'll look at this job here, and I'm going to show 3 different ways of assigning tasks. The first is the concept of a quick task. So from my dashboard, in my tasks and to-do section, I have a button here that says quick task. It's really handy. It just allows me to quickly assign a task to a person. Now that task can have just a title and who it's assigned to. The blue lines represent required fields. This could be like, make some new coffee. And it's assigned to me, and I click submit, and that's it. That's done. Why don't we just do that? I'll select it, and notice it goes right to my dashboard. And then I just made that coffee, so I'm going to mark it as completed. But you do have the option of adding in more information. So, for example, I'm going to call this task 1, for lack of better imagination. Notice that I can choose to show more information, and I can put in a due date. So I want this done by tomorrow. Priority. I can choose a job that it's related to. So I'm going to choose that, holiday entrance signs. I think we have a couple jobs with the word holiday in it. So I'm just going to type in the word holiday. Leave the field. There's 2. Choose the one I want. Relate this to a service. So this drop-down is showing me the scope of work structure for that job. This is a research task. Budgeted amount of hours. Might say, I have 1 hour to complete this. In fact, well, let's actually leave that off for now. I can also upload files here as well. So the concept that I'm trying to get across is that there's a lot of options for the information that you can include, but by all means, they're not required, and just the title and who it's assigned to are the required fields. But submitting this will then show me, task 1, holiday entrance signs, due on the 15th, it's assigned. I'll put it into progress and maybe drop an hour against it and submit. We'll say that I'm now done that task, mark it as completed. So I really do like the quick task. I highly recommend it. Another method of assigning tasks in the system that isn't specific to a larger schedule is from the jobs details page, you can look at the financials tab. Now the financials tab is really cool because it gives you an overview of the job scope of work structure. What is the list of the line items that need to be accomplished in order to complete this job? How much time have we budgeted for each of these? And then if I want to assign a task for one of these, I am able at any time to just select Add New Task. However, if I look at it from the Financials tab, I can see, okay, well, I want to assign some research work here. And if I just click on the plus icon for the service, it will bring me to the Task Add page. And it drops in the title that was the service name. It also drops in the description that came from the estimate. So it auto-populates that. auto-populates the service, of course. All I need to do is choose when is this due. So we'll say that I want this done by Friday. Who's it assigned to? We're going to say myself. And then let's say that I want to put in some estimated hours. Now, the total estimated hours of research for this job filled in at 10. However, I can see below that for the selected service of research, we have estimated 10 hours. We have assigned specifically to me 0 so far. This would be the first that was specifically assigned to me as far as budgeted hours. Actual timesheet hours tracked against this is 1, sorry. So we can see that we have put an hour against this. And then allocated task hours against the service as a whole. How much total time have we assigned for research? We haven't assigned any. So not just to me specifically, but to everyone. So this gives us all the information we could possibly need to understand how much of the budget we've already used or assigned it hasn't been used. And this allows me to know that we might have 10 hours total, but we've already used 1. So let's give this, let's say 9 hours. And then if I click submit, it will assign that task. And in this case, I'm actually going to leave that for now. I'm not going to submit that because we're going to take a look. It would result in the exact same task on the dashboard that we've already seen. So we're going to leave that for the actual schedule. But you can see how it's very useful to click Assign Task from the Financials tab. And it accomplishes the same thing as choosing to add new task from here or add new task from the main nav bar. It brings you to the same page. It just automatically fills in information instead of you having to fill it in manually. So that's why I wanted to show that, but you'll notice that the page itself is the same. So the next thing that we're going to look at is scheduling. So we're going to create a schedule, and I think we're actually going to create a couple schedules. So the first thing we're going to look at is the concept of creating a schedule where the job structure is the template for that schedule. The second thing we're going to look at is the reverse of that concept, where instead of the job structure being the template for the schedule is the template for the job structure. And I'm going to explain some kind of real-world scenarios around both. So in the first example, we have this job and we've opened it up. It's holiday season entrance signs. And I estimated this job at $12,900. And I can see that the category is fixed price. So I plan to charge my client $12,900 for this as a fixed price. If I want to see a breakdown of that, of course, we can look at the Financials tab and see where that breakdown is coming from. But in this scenario, I put together an estimate. I put in values. I put in descriptions. I got the client to sign off on it. So my estimate is approved. I can navigate to it from here. And I got the client to sign off on it. From there, I opened up the job, and I'm now going to add a schedule for it. So up at the top, I'm going to select to add new schedule. Now the default option is to use the current estimate services as a template. What that's basically telling you is that if you click submit, this is going to be your schedule structure. Creative services, research, sketching, design, copy, production, client management. Those are going to be the tasks in my schedule. If I choose to include external expenses, I'm also going to get expenses and printing, which I may want to include in the schedule. In this case, I will. So all I need to do is hit submit. I don't need to adjust anything really, aside from maybe including the externals, if I just want the existing structure to be the template for the schedule. So I click submit, and that brings me into my schedule details page. So you'll notice we're looking at the schedule for holiday season entrance signs. And then notice now that I have creative services, and I have research and sketching and design, and all the descriptions that I put in have come through. And then there's my printing. Up at the top right, we have 3 editing options: outline, manage, and full. Now there was a release to the schedules module recently. It was pretty minor. It was really the first in a series of steps around an upgrade, a very significant upgrade to the schedules module. One of the next steps that is coming is the elimination of the concept of outline, manage, and full. What's going to be happening is all fields are going to be available for you from one view, and you'll be able to side scroll and line edits and use the interface in a much more friendly way. So that is something to look forward to. But for now, when you look at these 3 editing options, they are actually pretty straightforward to understand once you look at them. So outline is giving us the task name, who is it assigned to, when is it due, status, and priority. Really, really simple, straightforward scheduling and task assignment. Pick who you're assigning the task to, tell them when it's due, tell them the status and the priority, and that's it. Manage is giving us additional fields, such as when should they start the work, what are the budgeted hours, and what's the service this is related to. Full is giving us additional options, such as milestone, priority, percentage complete, if perhaps there's already been work done on these things. I almost always recommend using Manage. I find it to be the easiest to work with. It makes the most sense for me, so it's what we're going to stick with today. And you'll notice that we have the tasks that have come over from our estimate and our financials tab. And all we're doing is we're just building out the schedule. So the research work, I want this done, let's say by our studio staff. I'm going to have it done by Travis. And I want him starting this work today, and I want him finishing this work by, let's say, Monday. Any unsaved changes are in blue. And blue, it's almost kind of there to like annoy you in a way, to encourage you to save and continue and to get rid of the blue. So anything you change will be highlighted in blue so you know exactly what is unsaved. The sketching and rough work, now I want this done by our designer Darren, and I want him starting this work on Monday, and I want him finishing it by that Thursday. The design work. Now I need this actually broken into 2 sections because there's going to be an initial design process, and then we're going to do some revisions based on client feedback. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the plus icon to add a new task, and I'm going to call this design second round. So it's the second round of design. And the service that this is related to is design. Now, a lot of people ask, what is the difference between a task and a service? The difference is that the service is showing me the financial structure / scope of work structure that came from the estimate and will go to the invoice and relates to all the time, with the buckets where the time goes. I could have a 100-line schedule that all maps to a 3-line service structure. A lot of agencies do this. They might have one service called interactive or digital. And literally all the work that they do, all the web work they do goes to that digital service. But they have all these different tasks that they assign. The task titles could be really specific. It could be design second round, look at, I can't remember our client's name on there, but let's say look at client feedback. So the title is really specific, but it's related to the service of design. We had a description, second round of designs. We choose who we have doing this work. So, I want both of these tasks done by Darren. So I can select each field individually, but I can also bulk edit. So if I choose both of these, 1 and 2, up at the top, I can select to assign both of these to Darren, and it populates the fields that are selected. We'll deselect those and continue our scheduling. So I have 32 hours in total for design. I'm going to take, let's say, 16 for the first one and 16 for the second one. The first round is going to be going, let's say, from the 22nd until the 28th, or let's say the 27th. And then the next one, we're going to have the client feedback on the 28th. We'll start that on the 29th, and we'll take that through to the 3rd. So we're just, building out the start and the end dates for when this needs to occur. Now, sometimes when I'm going through these webinars and when I'm showing this stuff, I might actually skip over the end of the schedule, but I'm not going to do that. I actually want to build this out in full because we're going to use it as a template after we're done. So I want all the information filled in here. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to build out our copywriting work, select our copywriter, and we're going to have him working on this at about the same time. So we'll say from the 26th until the 2nd. And then the production work is going to be done by our studio staff. I'm not really sure who, to be honest with you, so I'm just going to choose the role level of studio staff. And they can either all work on it, or one of them can pick it up individually, or a traffic manager can delegate that later. But for now, I'm just going to choose studio staff. And I want this work done from the 2nd until the 5th. Let's actually say the 4th. Client management, I don't really need to schedule client management, but I do have this printing item. And I need this, to the printers. And I need it to the printer. I'm going to have our, let's say, our creative director, Daniel, take care of this. And in fact, let's actually give it to the studio staff. I'm going to have Travis take care of this. And I need him to send this to the printer on the 5th. Now, there's no start date. I just need it to the printer on the 5th. And you know what? I need it to him by 1 p.m. Because that's when we, that's the deadline in order to get that back, maybe by the following Monday or something like that. Now, the service, this is related to production work. Or let's say it's actually related to client management. So I can choose where that time is going to go. Where is Travis going to track the time that we're assigning him to get this to the printer? It might take him half an hour. Where is he going to put that half an hour? It's going to go into client management. Save and continue, and I have my schedule. There's one last thing I'm going to do here before I check in any questions. I think I can see them popping in and going out, so I think Sophie's managing most of them behind the scenes. But we're going to show one last thing, and then we're going to look at some other ways around templatizing this, using it again, using it as a structure for a new job and all that stuff. So each of these is now a task that's been assigned. We give it a start date and a due date. We chose the resource. The staff person is doing the work. We have a description. The service is filled in. The only thing that's left to do is adjust the status. Everything is in a draft status right now. I want that all being put into assigned. So I'm just going to choose up at the top in the bulk edit, select assigned, select assigned. If nothing is selected on the left, everything changes. So when I select these boxes on the left, that's affecting the bulk editing. If I have nothing selected, then everything changes for the entire bulk edit. Save and finish, and my schedule is created. So I have this in total going from the 14th of October until the 5th of November. And that is my schedule created. And anything that I assigned to myself, if I had of, would be showing up on my dashboard as the other tasks that we've looked at today would appear. So with the title and the description and the job and so forth. Sophie, anything that you think that we should address on the screen at this time?
Yeah, hi Mark. Thanks for checking in. Yeah, so lots of great questions right now. Something I thought might be cool to point out on screen would be the tagging feature. Do you think you could speak towards that real quick on the schedule and how it might benefit some people to use?
Yeah, definitely. Let's take a look at that. It's something I probably shouldn't skip over. So the tagging, depending on your lifespan with Function Point, the tagging will mean a few different things for you. So if you're brand new to the system, then the tagging is what you'd expect it to be. You're tagging a task with a tag, and I'll show you how that can be used in just a second. If you are experienced with Function Point, you've been using the system for a long time, and you've created many schedules, and in those schedules, you've had multiple sub-parents. So what I mean by that is we're looking at a parent task, and we're looking at child tasks. Previously, before the last update, I could have this be a parent with more children. Those could then be a parent with more children, and so forth. There was a few issues with that. One is that it wasn't really providing a lot of functionality. It was just really more of kind of a structural assistance. But it was also limiting our ability to do some fun stuff in the future. So, we have some updates that are coming around, dependencies and just a lot of things that people have been asking and talking about for the last little while. So in order to do that, we needed to flatten and clean up these schedules a bit. So the tags is a way of us being able to accomplish that. And when I select tags here, I'm going to see a lot of tags that I've used in the past. And if you're somewhat new to the system, you're going to have a much shorter list. But a good example of how I might use these tags is, I have, in this case, some administrative tasks, and I also have some creative tasks. So, for example, the research, I'm gonna lump the research into administrative. Maybe because the research that we're doing is, it's not really related to the actual design work. It's more just around research into, past jobs that we've done, some client information that they gave us, things like that. So I'm going to put this as administrative. The sketching and roughs work, this is, of course, creative work. So I'm tagging this as creative. And then the design, I'm going to tag with creative. Notice it's just there for me now. The second round, of course, is creative. Copywriting, I'm going to say is creative as well. The production, I'm going to put this as administrative. And then the client management, of course, is administrative. And then the expenses is, of course, administrative. So I have two major tags here, two groups, creative and administrative. And those are the kind of the two ways that I'm looking at this schedule. I'm going to click Save and Finish. And what I can then do is see, okay, well, how are these tagged? How are these tasks tagged? And then later on, when I come back to this schedule, and I want to see, what's going on. And right now, you'll notice, none of them are completed. They're all assigned. There's no actual hours. There's not a lot of data in here around progress. But when I come back later and I do want to see progress, I might want to see, okay, well, how are all of the creative tasks doing? And it narrows it down to just the creative tasks. But I want to also know, how are the admin tasks doing? So I'm going to look at the administrative tasks, and that's showing me my 4 administrative tasks. So I have 4 creative, 4 administrative, and I can jump back and forth between those. And that's a good example of how you can use those tags to categorize the work. And you're going to see this type of tagging feature be expanded throughout the system as well, and more functionality being pushed behind it to do other neat things with it. But it's a neat way of filtering. It's a good visual, and it can allow you to get creative with it. This is just one example, but there's some neat things that you could do and different, methodologies you can come up with using those tags. Sophie, what do you think about that? Any questions on that topic at all?
Nope, I think that was perfect and covered everything beautifully. Thank you, Mark.
No problem. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to look at is doing things in the opposite order. I want to jump to the jobs details page here just for a second. Actually, before we do that, let's go ahead and convert this to a template, and then we'll kind of jump back to the beginning again. So in my workflow process, I had the client contact me. They said, hey, we need some new entrance signs for the holiday season. So I put together an estimate. I sent it out. They approved it. I opened up the job. The first thing I did is I created the schedule. And I created the schedule based on what I think it's going to take, not really on historical information. Maybe we've never really done this type of particular signage that they're asking for. So I built out the schedule as to what I think it would take, and it turned out to be from the 14th to the 5th. It's about 3 weeks of work. From here, all the tasks are assigned, and people have these on their dashboards. They received emails about the tasks. If they have their alerts set up, they're working on these. They're tracking their time and so forth. But I'm looking at this now, maybe as like a creative director or a traffic manager or a project manager, and I'm thinking, what? The next time this client contacts me, I might want to use the same template or the same schedule as a template. Or maybe if a different client of ours contacts us and asks us for similar work, I want to have this available as a template to use again. And I'm talking about the schedule itself, so not so much the estimate, which of course we can copy as well. But in this case, I'm talking about specifically the template, or the schedule. So what I'm going to do, because I've decided I want to use this again, is up at the top I'm going to select Convert to Template. Now, it's going to give you an option depending on a certain situation. Right now, this is letting me know that this schedule is part of real work. There's an estimate in there that this is related to, vis-a-vis that whole workflow I just described. If there was no related real work, then there would be an option that would say convert this version. But in this case, I need to copy it because I'm not, this isn't the template itself we're looking at. This is real work. So I'm converting a copy of this schedule into a template. Now right away I need to make some changes because this is called holiday season entrance signs copy. That's not a good name for the template. So I'm going to go to basic info and I'm going to choose to edit this. I need to refresh it. There we go. So I'm going to edit this. And if you think about it, this is pretty straightforward. We're looking at a schedule template. So I'm probably going to want the name of it to be really generic. In this case, it's not a template for holiday season entrance signs. It is a, let's just say, this is a large stand-up signage and banners. So this is a template for if we're doing any kind of like large stand-up signage that are going to be like in like an entranceway, and then also banners over entranceways. Like, we have a client that's a car dealership, so this might be applicable for them if they have a big sale or something like that. We're also trying to break into some other retail stores, so if they want some entrance signs, this might be a good template for that as well. So I'm going to call this large stand-up signage and banners. Now, this isn't related to this company, Safeway, specifically. I can do this for any company, so I'm going to delete that out. And then we're good to go. This is now a good title for the template, so we'll submit it. The tasks themselves, I might want to go in here and maybe update the descriptions. Right now, they're pretty generic, so I can keep them. If the description was, hey, talk to Jane about this and that, then I might need to adjust it. But right now the descriptions are pretty generic, so I'm going to leave them. So this is now a good template. So in the system as a template, and I'm going to move away from this page for a minute. So the next workflow we're going to look at is the opposite of what we just did. So instead of the client contacting me and me creating an estimate and then getting it approved and then opening it up and then adding a schedule, in this example, a different client is contacting me. Maybe it's that car dealership I was thinking about. So the North Shore Auto Group, my contact, Paul, just called me up and he said, you know what, I need some new banners and signage for this, this end of 2015 sale that we're having. Can you give me, an idea as to how long it would take you to do that and what kind of costs we're looking at to get it done? So I know that, hey, I have that template for that schedule for that work we did for Safeway, and this is really similar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose to add a new schedule. And I can see North Shore Auto Group here. Let's say I didn't see them there. So I'm just going to click Add Schedule. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to choose my client. So I'm going to choose, North Shore Auto Group. This isn't relating to an existing project. I'm going to choose my template. So here's my large stand-up signage and banners. Select it. I'm going to give it a name. So I'm going to call this the 2015 model clear out sale. Enter my description of the deliverable. So this is the overall jobs description. And then submit that. And right away, I'm going to get the exact same schedule that we created from scratch, autofill. I'm going to choose manage just like before. And you'll notice that I have all the information, including the dates. Now here's the thing. It's not the 14th of October right now. It is, let's say, the, the 20th of November. Or let's say, it's the 20th of November. So it's now the 20th of November. So these are old dates. So what I'm going to do is up at the top, I'm going to select Adjust Dates. And instead of the schedule starting on the 14th of October, it's going to be starting on the 20th of November. Well, let's push it back. Let's actually say the 11th. Let's say the 11th of November. So it's so it's now the 11th of November. Choose my start date. Choose my work days. This will fill in for you automatically. And then you can leave everything here. All you need to do is choose the start date and hit Adjust Dates. I don't recommend adjusting any of these filters. Basically, what this is telling me is use weekends. If I were to select this box, it will allow tasks to have due dates on weekends. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave it unselected. Now, if the client were to say to me, tell me how long, when you can have it done by, I would choose the start of the schedule. If the client said to me, I need you to have this done by the 1st of December, I might choose the end of the schedule. Because if I choose the end of the schedule and I say the 1st of December, then when I hit adjust dates, it's going to show me when I would need to have started this by. So let's say that the client says to me, I need this by the 1st of December. Click adjust dates. So it has now put the final due date as the 1st of December, and it's adjusted everything else accordingly by the exact same amount of days. And I can now see that in order to get this done by the client's requested time of the 1st of December, I need to start the work by the 10th of November. Now we actually have a bunch of free time right now, so I'm gonna save and continue this, but I'm actually going to adjust it. I can start this a little bit earlier. So instead of starting at the 10th of November, I'm actually going to maybe start at the 4th of November. Hit adjust dates, and then everything adjusts accordingly. And we're going to have it done by November 25th. So we'll have a bit of leeway time in there. So I've used this schedule template to populate the information. I've adjusted the dates accordingly. And then now I want to know, how much is this going to cost my client? I need to send them an estimate. So up at the top right, I'm going to choose to add estimate. And all I'm doing is I'm doing the reverse order. Instead of adding an estimate and then a job and then a schedule, I'm adding a schedule and then an estimate and a job. So when I select add estimate, it's going to ask me, what information do you want to change? Things like, oops, didn't mean to change the rate category. Let's keep it as standard. Type, for example, this is banner display. The name, the due date. So we decided on the 25th of November, so we're going to put that in there. Any other information. So my main contact and my client, his name is Paul. This is going to be a fixed price. Fill in any information we want. And then down below, this is showing me how the system is going to calculate my values. For the most part, I recommend just leaving this, because all it's doing is it's adding up the amount of hours in the schedule, multiplying it by the rates that you have for the selected services. In almost all cases, all you need to do is just hit submit. But there are some options to use staff rates and things like that. I'm not going to get too much into that. For the most part, you just need to hit submit. And it's going to auto-generate an estimate. And we can see that estimate with our value. So 10,700, because it didn't include any external expenses, so I'll go in and I'll add my external expenses, because it can't calculate the value of external expenses using hours in the schedule. It's something you need to plug in with a cost and a markup. But there is my schedule created with the hours that came. Sorry, my estimate created with the hours that came from the schedule. And it auto created a value, so I might just come in here and just really quickly add some expenses. And I know that this is going to cost about $2,000, so we'll say $2,000, and I'm only going to mark it up by 10% in this case, and there's the exact $12,900 I had in my original example. Save it, send it off to the clients, they approve it, and we have our job opened for our 2015 model clearout sale with a detailed schedule, with all the dates and the tags and everything coming from the template, and a list of tasks that resulted from that schedule. So those are two opposite workflow options for the scheduling and the estimates. And you can see how this would allow you to improve your accuracy as you go along with your usage of the system. Now, every time a client contacts you, you might use a template, maybe modify things ever so slightly, and then look at the results. If you see you're coming over or under budget, maybe you adjust the template ever so slightly and then use it again the next time. And look at the profitability each time you do it. And then, it's also giving your staff, a strict structure to adhere to, because they're not, creating things ad hoc on the fly. They're using these previously created, pre-structured schedules that have a information and a structure that you like. So lots of good things that you can do there. So if you just want to check in, any questions or anything so far that we should answer on screen?
Nope, I've actually been able to cover everything coming in, but again, everyone, send questions my way. I'm here to help. Awesome.
So, we have about 5 minutes left, and I might go 1 or 2 minutes over time, because I do want to show one other thing, and that is the resource link. So we've looked at we've looked at managing jobs, we've looked at customizing dashboards, creating schedules from a few different methods. The next thing that we're going to look at is staff availability. Now, I really do encourage you to look at the tasks to do section, which is the same as our traffic dashboard, in order to get a good understanding of what are the specific deliverables assigned to our designers. What are the specific things that they're working on. Here are the the 6 tasks assigned to our 2 designers. This is a good way of looking at it in the tasks and to do section. But there is an option here called resource link, and I'll just show that again. It's under tasks, resource link. Now what this is showing us is an understanding of availability, an overview of load balance. So let's look at somebody who has some good stuff in here. Let's look at the designers. That's a good example. So here, I have 2 major designers I'm looking at. So Darren and Sarah, and I can see their work schedule. So Darren here is working Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day, where Leo here works. Actually, he works 8 hours as well. If somebody was working half days on Wednesdays, that would be represented here. And then what we're seeing is gray time was unallocated or free. So Darren's working 8 hours today, 8 hours tomorrow, 8 hours on Friday, and of that, today is free, tomorrow is free, Friday has 5.5 hours free. Sarah has the same amount of time available to her, 8 hours per day, but she's 8.5 hours overbooked for today specifically. If I want to see what is making up this time, why is Sarah 8.5 hours overbooked? If I select this, it will show me the list of tasks. So I have 2 tasks. There's a design task. It's for a job called, NAG Biz Cards, assigned by myself. It says the description. I can see the client it's for. I see it's due on the 13th, so that's overdue. And then I can see there's 7.5 hours in the budget. There's 4.5 hours remaining. And if I look at this, I can see, okay, well, maybe we'll just move this a little bit. If we move this to Friday, that might even her out a little bit. So we can see that jumps some time to Friday. She also has this production task that's way overdue, and I can see that there's 12 hours in the budget, and she hasn't started any work on it yet. So that's making up this 8, and then this 4 is those 12 hours. And I'd have to move this pretty far in order to even that out. So why don't we just move it from Sarah to Darren? So I'm going to move it from Sarah to Darren, and then we'll make that due, let's say, tomorrow. Submit that, and that then moves that time. And actually, I adjusted the wrong one. We'll say move that to tomorrow. There we go. Submit that, and then Darren's time is now evened out a bit. So this is really meant as a visual aid. It's a visual representation of the load balancing that you have on individuals, and also as the role as a whole, as a total. So the designer role has 16 hours available on the 28th. That's from 8 hours for Darren on the 28th and 8 hours for Sarah on the 28th. There are 7 hours available on the 23rd because Darren has no time and Sarah has 7 hours. So that's totaling 7 hours. There's 7.5 hours assigned specifically to the role level of designer due today or before today. And if I select that, it'll show me that I have this design task here. It's for a job called Travel Kit New Package Design, due on the 15th. So that's actually bleeding over from tomorrow. So let's give that from the designer role down to Sarah, submit that, and that's probably I was going to say it'll overbook her, but it didn't. It evened her out quite nicely. So that's an example of that tool. I do recommend checking it out for just getting an overall understanding of what kind of load balance that you have on your resources. So that concludes all of the content for the webinar today. I did want to launch a poll. So I'm going to be launching a quick poll here. If I can pull that up, there we go. So I'm just asking how valuable you found the webinar. Please do feel free to be honest with that. And then if you do have any feedback for the webinars, you can feel free to send an email to success@functionpoint.com. Again, that's success@functionpoint.com. So feel free to send us any kind of feedback or requests that you might have. We are actually looking at content for a new cycle, going to be starting towards the end of the year, perhaps slightly in the new year, as we have this cycle going on for another little while. So another, I think, until maybe early December, we have these webinars happening, and they're going to be looking at some new content. So please let us know any kind of feedback that you'd like. Looks like we have 94% voted in that poll, so I'm going to close that down. Appreciate the feedback, everyone. And again, do please join us 2 weeks from today, same bat time, same bat channel. We're going to be looking at invoicing, so everything related to invoicing, and it'll be myself and Sophia. And then following that, we're going to have a little bit of a break because we have a holiday here on the 11th of November. So we're going to be having a little bit of a break, and then we'll be reconvening after that for the FP Accountant QuickBooks integration webinar, which will be with myself and my colleague Jeremy. And we're going to be taking a look at that. Also, we're going to be talking a little bit about some cool things coming in the future around an interactive webinar for FP Accountants. So if you happen to be in the FP Accountant webinar, you're going to be seeing me talking a little bit about an interactive program we're going to be offering. It's going to be a free program, so anyone can join into it, and it's something new that we're going to be trying. So keep an ear open for that. Sophie, anything that you want to add before we hop off the call today?
I don't think so. No, you've done an awesome job today, Mark, and thanks for, I think even I learned a few new things in there, so that was great.
Sweet. Well, I appreciate your time, Sophie, and of course all of the attendees today. Thank you very much for joining in, and do please feel free again to send us any feedback to success@functionpoint.com, and we will, oh, and you'll also see a follow-up email coming from us with some content around scheduling and task management and things like that. So again, thanks everyone for your time today, and have yourselves a great rest of your Wednesday. Take care. Bye now.